In today's video, we have the latest NHL trade rumors from around the league. We're looking at Patrick Kane, possibly ending up as a New York Ranger, what our trade package might look like there. We learned that the Ottawa Senators have inquired on Hawks defenseman Seth Jones. Plus, we also want to talk about the Flyers and Kevin Hayes. May he be on his way out of Philadelphia as well at some point, either now or in the offseason. Plus, we have news from the NHL waiver wire, an update from player safety, a signing in Edmonton, more news from around the league, including injury updates as well. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of things to discuss today. First up, we did have some players on waivers, including Craig Smith in Boston and Austin Czarnik as well. Both players have cleared. We also have players on unconditional waivers for contract termination. Those players cleared as well. No surprises there. But we did wonder if maybe a guy like Craig Smith might get picked up, but no dice on that. So the Bruins will have the option of assigning him to the minors. As of right now, that hasn't been done, but we'll see what they decide to do with Craig Smith. I know some were saying that this really isn't a good fit between him and Coach Jim Montgomery. But you know what? Really, even before Montgomery got there under Cassidy, he did better under Cassidy, but still wasn't really living up to what they expected from him. So we'll see what happens and how they decide to move forward here with their roster. We do know that Thomas Hertl of San Jose is going to be having a hearing as well for a high-sticking incident that took place last night against the Calgary Flames in centerman Elias Lindholm. As of right now, that hearing has not been completed. No decision's been announced, but we do know that a suspension is likely coming soon for San Jose's top centerman. The Edmonton Oilers today announced the signing of, I guess you could call him backup goaltender, but lately he's been the starting goalie, and that's Stuart Skinner. Skinner gets a 3-year contract extension with an average annual value of $2.6 million per year. So that walks him right to being an unrestricted free agent. But at the same time, that's pretty good value for a guy who's really been, expected to be the backup and has been outplaying Jack Campbell and getting more of the starts lately. So, moving forward next year and the next few years, that does have probably more money tied up in goaltending than they probably would have liked. But Skinner is certainly younger. I know some people were comparing it to Mikko Koskinen because of the number of games he's played in the NHL, but Skinner is way younger and has a lot more, potential longer term, in my opinion. He also has played better before leading to the contract. But either way, Jack Campbell has been a bit of a disappointment for the Oilers so far, but Skinner has been the better of the two, and we'll see. This is a pretty good contract for him and the team, I think, but they do need Campbell to be better for the overall health of their goaltending unit and the cap hits to be more justifiable. So we'll see how things go in that front. Some more bad news out of Philadelphia today. Crossing Broad reporter and Snow the Goalie podcaster Anthony Sanfilippo reported today, and it was later confirmed by the team, that Cam Atkinson is going to be done this year for the Philadelphia Flyers, which is a bizarre scenario. We don't really know the full extent. It does appear to be a neck injury. We do know originally Atkinson was out. It was called day-to-day. Then he was changed to week-to-week. And then from there, not that long ago, he was practicing with the team and taking contact. He even talked to reporters and said that he didn't have a clear date when he would be back, but he was feeling good, taking contact, and he would definitely be back sooner than later was all that he had said. And then all of a sudden he went back to being on IR, and now he's done for the year. And Sanfilippo also reports that it's not confirmed by any means, but there is some concern that it could be career threatening. So I don't know the extent of the neck injury. It does require surgery, and he is going to be out for an extensive time. Won't play again this year. So really this team is just battered and bruised, and Ryan Ellis is likely done. Atkinson might be done. There's a lot of concern about Sean Couturier. Now, it's funny because GM Chuck Fletcher did release some comments on him today, saying that he's going to be resuming skating and that he might actually be able to play by March. To be completely honest, if I'm the Flyers coach, GM, or anybody there, I'm probably not going to say too much regarding a lot of the injuries and the ones that have been out longer term, because a lot of this has been really bizarre. You could, to some degree, you have to question the handling of it, but I don't really know that that's really the case, or that that they mishandled it, and that's part of the problem here. It just seems really weird how they've been. Maybe they're just cursed. I don't know what it is, but the whole Ryan Ellis situation, was he dealing with something before he was even traded? It happened so early in his career, but but they were very, sketchy with details about what he was dealing with this whole time, and he's been out for so long now. And then, of course, a lot of differing reporting on the Couturier situation when it was first broke that he might need another surgery, might not play this year, and now Atkinson. It's just one bad blow after another with this Philadelphia Flyers team. So certainly Atkinson is a pretty good hockey player, a proven goal scorer, into his early to mid-30s now. Of course, was traded a couple years back for Jacob Voracek, straight up 1-for-1. And now both players are going to be out for a significant time, and their careers are jeopardized because of the injuries they're dealing with. So we certainly want to wish Cam Atkinson all the best, and hopefully a speedy recovery, and hopefully he can get back. But certainly, like I said, this team just seems to be cursed with all the injuries. It's really sad state of affairs there in Philadelphia. A few other injury updates, and we're going to get back to the Flyers here in a moment. Boone Jenner and Cole Sillinger are both out for Columbus. Jenner's going to be out for about a month. I believe it's a hand or thumb injury that he's dealing with. And Cole Sillinger, all we know is it's an upper body injury. So far, they're saying out indefinitely until they get more of a clear-cut recovery time. So that's a couple of big blows for a team that's already struggled this year and already had a bad start and already dealt with a fair bit of adversity this year. So certainly not good there. The Devils have recalled Mackenzie Blackwood. He's completed his conditioning stint in the American Hockey League, so he's back up with the big club. And Schmid, the backup goalie who's been playing with Vanecek, has been sent back down. Vanecek and Schmid has been phenomenal for the most part. I know the Devils in the last 5 or 6 games have not been as good and have lost some games after quite a long stretch of just beating everybody around the league. But certainly, in a situation where they're going to be giving Blackwood every opportunity to get back in there. We'll see where this goes. Like I said before, when he was first sent down for the conditioning stint, I do wonder how that'll impact things. Sometimes it makes a difference for players. It's funny how it messes with their confidence or how players play, but sometimes the goalie between the pipes impacts everything. So we'll see where that goes and how the Devils react and how their season continues here after a really, a bad start in the first few games and a really hot run, and now they're having a bit of adversity now. So we'll see how things change. Now, back to the Flyers. Now, I want to talk about Kevin Hayes. It was a heavily discussed topic on the 32 Thoughts podcast that came out this morning, and a bit on Hockey Night Canada's 32 Thoughts segment as well. But essentially, it looks like the relationship between John Tortorella and Kevin Hayes is already being big-time tested and might be going sour in a hurry. Of course, we know that John Tortorella is the type of coach that rewards you for your 200-foot play, strong effort, compete level, all those types of things. Like, that's what he wants. If you're lazy at all, you're not working hard enough, you're not putting in the effort defensively, then you're going to not be on his good list and you're not going to get the ice time. It's just, the nature of how he operates, which is understandable, really. It makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, Kevin Hayes has been their most consistent offensive player. So there's some differing opinions out there whether or not he should have been benched recently. Of course, he had a time where he was benched for I believe it was a third period a few games ago. He's also been a healthy scratch now. So certainly kind of feeling the warpath of Tortorella. Apparently there's been talk that Torts have talked to Hayes more than one time so far this year about his, his lack of defensive play, or like the fact that his defensive play is just not nearly good enough on his own end. And he's been warned that if he doesn't pick it up, that he's going to end up getting his ice time cut or possibly being scratched. And that's what's happened here. So it shouldn't have been a huge surprise to Kevin Hayes, but certainly that contract based on the relationship is becoming another problem for this team who already have, like I said, they got Couturier, they got Ellis, they've got Atkinson now. They've got all these guys that are on longer-term deals, bigger money, and just are tied up and can't play due to injuries. And now they get this other guy in Hayes who's dealt with a lot personally off the ice, family-wise. And now he's, his contract could be a problem with him if this relationship really goes bad as well. But at the same time, at the end of the year, the contract should be a little bit more favorable for a buyout. It's still going to be a bit expensive for the Flyers, but at least all of the bonus money included in the contract at that point will be paid after the July 1st bonus that would be due this coming summer. So it would still be on the books for a long time, but at least it would be a little bit more doable. And if they do go more into a full-fledged rebuild, they may not, care so much about having, some money tied up in that buyout. To me, what made matters worse is Kevin Hayes' comments. He was actually asked by reporters to respond to the healthy scratch, and he came out against the coach. And this is not going to make matters any better. It's certainly going to make things worse, in my opinion. He said that he didn't agree with it, essentially, and that he didn't think there was any benefit from it. But at the end of the day, Torts is the coach. He's the player. He understands the coach wants to put the lineup together that he feels gives the team the best chance to win, and that's what he did. But, saying that you didn't agree with it and didn't think that there was any benefit from it just shows that he's not going to learn. He's not getting the message from the coach that he wants him to put in a better effort and better defensive play. And yeah, sure, it's great that you're getting points and putting up some goals, but if you're giving up that much on the flip side, is it really all that much of a difference? You know what I mean? Like, if you're a really sloppy defensive player and good offensively, you have to take the good with the bad in some cases, but the team just isn't strong enough to make up for it. It's basically here is also a part of the problem as well. So Elliotte Friedman and Jeff Marek went on to talk about the fact they feel like Kevin Hayes could become either a trade candidate or more likely a buyout candidate this offseason. I'm not sure what the kind of money and terms still left on Hayes' deal, that there would be many buyers out there on a trade market. I mean, if Philadelphia wants to eat half the remaining income and cap hit, maybe, I guess, but it might be best if they just kind of find a way to move on here. So still, it's possible that we could see the end of Kevin Hayes' run in Philadelphia either before the deadline or next offseason, and we'll have to kind of keep an eye on this relationship between him and Tortorella to see if it goes bad or if they can get back on the same page or what have you, because we already know JVR is another player likely going to be moved. We talked about him recently from Philadelphia, and it just seems like this team is a complete mess. They need to go through a more extensive rebuild, and maybe moving on from Hayes might be part of that solution. Now, one other interesting tidbit that came up on the 32 Thoughts podcast today as well, with Friedman and Marek talking about the Ottawa Senators and the fact that they've actually inquired with the Chicago Blackhawks on defenseman Seth Jones. Now, Seth Jones has a huge contract. Of course, the right shot defenseman was traded from Columbus to Chicago. Of course, not long after that, things in Chicago really went downhill for a variety of reasons on and off the ice. And he's still owed a lot of money and has a lot of term on that deal. But as Friedman has made noted here, the Senators have called around to just about everybody, especially looking for a veteran, established, solid right shot defenseman. And Jones certainly checks a lot of those boxes, but at the same time, that's another mammoth contract to have on your books that I just don't know that Ottawa really should be going there. Now, he also went on to say that they inquired, they've had some conversations, but he didn't feel like it was going anywheres, and it was very unlikely to happen. But of course, they had dealt with Chicago before in the offseason with the Alex DeBrincat trade, thought maybe they would check again to see what they could do on a Seth Jones deal. Obviously, things didn't materialize. It's probably for the best, in my opinion. But just the fact that they're even having conversations around this guy is interesting. We do know that Chicago is going to have to keep somebody around to make sure they can hit the salary cap floor and all that. So I'm not really sure that they'd want to move Jones, just because as the Kane and Taves deals come off the books, they're going to, like I said, they're going to need a couple of decent contracts to make sure they get to the cap floor and not have to worry about that too much. But still, I don't know. I don't see Jones being the solution in Ottawa myself. But still, either way, I just found it interesting. It's unlikely going to happen, but the fact that they're having conversations does tell us they really are talking to everybody but a right shot defenseman. And at some point, hopefully, Ottawa finds their man and pulls the trigger. Now, lastly here, I want to touch on Patrick Kane. We have a new article that I was looking at from NBC Sports talking about the fact that Patrick Kane would be a great fit with the New York Rangers, and there seems to be a connection there between the two teams. There's also been talk about the Boston Bruins, again, maybe being in that race, but it's not really something that I feel makes a ton of sense for Boston. But from the Rangers' perspective, essentially this article not only goes on to talk about the fact of how good of a fit there would be, especially with the Kane Panarin connection from years past. They were great line mates and had a great connection. But of course, the Rangers are back on a winning streak here, winning the last 7 games, and certainly very much back in the mix when it comes to playoffs, and are back, considering one of the stronger teams in the Metro Division. That division is going to be tough, and it's going to be really hard, in my opinion, for some of the Atlantic Division teams to maybe even grab those wild card spots, because between, you've got Carolina, you've got Pittsburgh, you've got the Rangers, the Islanders are having a pretty good season. Washington's not out of it either. It's going to be tough to maybe even send more than 3 Atlantic Division teams to the playoffs. It's really hard to say. Teams like Florida, Detroit, Ottawa that are, kind of on the outside looking in but getting close, they're going to have a tough time because those Metro Division teams keep on putting up points and keep making it hard on them. But at the same time here, the Rangers, like, I wouldn't be shocked at all after last year's playoff run that they do make some sort of significant move to try to add to their roster to have a better push this year. Now, this article goes on to suggest that one of the top young players on the Rangers, like Kakko or Alexis Lafreniere, along with a first-round pick, would be the likely return package going to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Patrick Kane. Now, I don't know that the Rangers are going to want to pay a price that significant. I'm also not sure that the Rangers are going to feel like they need to pay a price that significantly, because ultimately we do know that Patrick Kane has a full no-move clause. It will essentially get to call his own shot. Because he's calling his own shot, the team that's trading Kane, being Chicago, won't really have any leverage. So I'm not really sure that they're going to be able to create any kind of a bidding war or anything of that nature. We know that Taves and Kane both have to have conversations with their agent, both under Pat Brisson, as well as Hawks GM Kyle Davidson. And that's likely going to be happening here this month. And they'll have a better, clear idea of if they're willing to be traded or not. And if I'm not sure if they'll get to the point that they actually discuss teams that they'd be willing to go to or not, or how that's going to work out. But if Kane only gives them one, maybe two teams, there's really no leverage. So I'm not really sure that the Rangers would feel like they'd be forced to pay that kind of return. But to me, if you're Chicago and you can get a first-round pick and a top young player like a Kakko or a Lafreniere, I take that trade all day long on an expiring contract for Patrick Kane. You don't know what Kane's future is going to hold yet, where he's going to play next year or beyond. But to me, that would be a great return. I just don't really know that I have confidence that they're going to get that. That's the thing here. There's some bigger time players around the league that's been mentioned in trade rumors, like Kane, like Taves, like even Brock Besser in Vancouver. And when you know, and all the teams know that are negotiating, that there's not a lot of leverage on the other side of it, they're not going to be willing to pay big prices. So I'm not sure that the Rangers would have to do that much, but if they did offer that, I can see why Davidson would be like, yep, deal, we're done, as long as the player's okay with it and waives, then we have themselves a trade. So let me know your thoughts on Kane going to the Rangers. Do you think the Rangers would have to pay that significant of a price, even though, in my opinion, they really wouldn't have much leverage in Chicago to ask for a big return, knowing that Kane will request where he wants to go. So let me know your thoughts on all that and more, everything discussed today in the comments, and we'll discuss further. Of course, if you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe, stick around, and keep up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.